Welcome, everyone, to So Very Wrong About Games, a board gaming podcast about board games. My name's Michael Walker, and I'm here with my good friend, the Hungry Gamer. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm a school teacher, and I'm just home from school. The students were good today. They participated today, and it is a very cold 62 degrees here.
Don't even start. Don't even start. All right. So, normal lineup, everyone. We're going to talk about the games we played this week, some news and why it doesn't matter, and then our main review this week, which is Lunar Rush, with a little bit of emphasis on the upcoming expansion, which is called Innovations. So, Mr. Gamer, that is hungry, what did you play this week?
So I got three things I played this week. The first one is one of my favorite games that does not fit on any table, and that is Conquest Princess, Fashion is Power. This is a fever dream of a game. I don't know if you've ever played it, but the only way to describe... So the theme is, we're going to save the universe from the evil fashion tyrant Mugaha, and we're going to do this through the power of fashion and friendship. And we will take our time ship, the Tiara, and occasionally we will come together into our giant Voltron-style robot, the Conquest Princess, to battle evil. And it's full on your fashion. Every time you teleport somewhere, your molecules get exfoliated, and then you get fast fashion. And it's if that sounds wacky, you're correct. But this game just drips with theme. It has all these 80s references of like little mini games that you're playing. Like on one side of the first scenario, you're doing like a Centipede. Remember the old video game Centipede? It's basically that kind of game you're doing. And on the other side, it's Space Invaders coming down. It is the best crisis management game I've played in the last 5-6 years. It's insane. If you get the deluxe bits, it has light up standees because when you get powerful enough, you undergo your magical girl transformation. And it actually says on the card, if you choose, strike a pose and then turn on your light up standee.
Nice.
And it's this cooperative bag builder, which is what's really cool is we share one bag that we're building up. But as we fight stuff, anytime something good happens, like we pull out a hit tile, we replace the evil monster on the board. But now that good thing we have is out of our bag. And so we have to then find ways to pick them all back up. And every time you draw something bad, you get hurt, but you can choose to hold on to that problem for a little bit. You can hold on to your problems if you want, which will keep them out of the bag, and you can have power by holding on to your problems. But then next turn, because, and this is a quote from the designer, because his therapist told him so, you can't hold on to things forever, and they must go back into the bag. And I don't know if he's joking. Yeah. And I don't know if he's joking about that his therapist told him that, and it's autobiographical, but it's beautiful. Anyhow, it is massive. It takes up a whole table, and it is a game that I never would have thought I would have enjoyed, because I don't care about fashion. I mean, look at me. I don't care about a magical girl transformation, again, because look at me. And I never really cared about Voltron, but this game is just pure magic. Chase one down. You have to chase one down. It's so good.
Sounds great. I finally got to play War Chest. I've been talking about War Chest a lot, and there was a crowdfunding that you got a whole bunch of War Chest all at once. I'm back to getting a 2-player group together, so I convinced them to give this War Chest a try, and it's very chess-like, and, back and forth. You have this... Well, even the base game has a fairly large deck of units. You can draft them. First game, you're just going to deal them out, and you're going to populate yet another bag builder. You're going to populate your bag with a couple chips of each unit. And when you draw these chips, you get to do multiple things with them. You can just deploy them into an area you control, or you can use it to move a similar unit of its type, or you can use it to attack a unit, or you can spend any of the tiles just to recruit any unit that you want, of the set you have in front of you. So you get to add it to your bag. So it's one of these things where you have to be careful, because you don't want to deploy too many of the chips, because if they're all out on the board, then there's none in your bag to activate them. And so you're attacking the enemy's unit, and every time you kill them, they lose the chips, and any dead units are off the board forever. So, there's this constant lowering of the supply, and you need to get to certain parts on the map. And another action you can do is to control that. If you control 6 special areas, you win. And so when we played it years ago, Mark and I, we did have the problem of it sort of deteriorates at the end of this sort of back and forth rough. Am I going to draw the right tile at the right time? Losing all your chips. And there was a little bit of that, but it ended fairly quickly. So it wasn't so bad as the first time we tried it. And we only played with the base units, and I'm looking forward to playing like the plethora of expansions that I got.
Yeah, I've played the core original many years ago, and like you mentioned, the chess part of it, which was why I didn't like it as much, because I was just so much thinking ahead. And I'm not really a thinking ahead kind of guy. Like I'm a react to the moment. Like that's when I'm gonna do my best in games. I have the most phones. Like something happens, I'm gonna go. You gotta be thinking about what you still got in your bag in that game. But it is very clever. It's really clever. It's just one of those games that I was like, I'm so bad at this, and no one wants to play against me because I'm so bad it wasn't even fun.
So that's War Chest. It's designed by Trevor Benjamin and David Thompson, some of our favorite designers, and put out by
The next one for me is one that's got a crowdfunding expansion about to deliver, which is what brought it back to my mind. This game called Lands of Galzyr. And this is a low-stakes sandbox exploration. You are some kind of forest critter. I've been playing as a frilled lizard, and you're traveling around this land. There's like 6 or 8 different towns and cities. And every town you go to, you can pick up jobs. And they may be big deal jobs. Like last time I played, and I actually play this over Zoom with other people. We all have our own copy, and it's easy enough to do. So I'm actually playing with Canadian Kev, or as you would know him, Kev, and actually Jerry Hawthorne, designer of Mice and Mystics. Like we met over online, and now we play games together. But so one of the times I played before, Jerry was off trying to stop a volcano from burning down a city. That's what he was doing. Meanwhile, I was convincing a local politician to turn the gladiatorial arena into a playground for children. And after I convinced him to do it, the very first kid there got lost, and I was supposed to find him, and I never found him. While he was saving the town from burning down, and my other buddy was escorting an old turtle historian so she could actually go see the stuff that she's been writing about. That's the scope of what's going on. It is the sweetest, most delightful little story that you've ever seen, and it's got this great little dice. A little bit like Vantage has the dice rolling checks, a little bit like that, and it's just this sweet, delightful story that I should not care as much as I do, but I wanted that turtle to go see that monument, and the bird, I think, had to carry that turtle up the hill because she was too old to walk up that hill, and they had to roll enough successes on their strength check to get her up that hill. And gosh darn it, she saw that monument, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, we played it once a while ago on stream, so if people want to check that out, they can go back into our history and see that. I too, when you said you were going to be talking about this, I had hoped that you had already gotten the new stuff, because I too have ordered the new stuff, and it will make it back on the table once it arrives.
Well, you are invited. You are invited to our Zoom game if you want. Yeah, I'm really hoping I really hope the new stuff gets here soon. I don't know how I'm going to decide if, do I abandon my frilled lizard for the new character?
It's new stuff. New stuff's always better. It's creep, right? They're probably more powerful, right? It's probably got the bigger muscles, the better dice. It's got...
You probably fly.
Lands of Galzyr has this, isn't it the one that has the sort of wheel, and it's not like a turning wheel or anything, but as you get your skills, and there's 2 skills that sort of supplement each other, right, as they go around. It's been so long.
Yeah, it has the 6 skills, and you have, I think, 2, and you put your pips in them, and if you're doing that kind of check, you can roll that color die, which can give you, lots of successes, but you also get to use the adjacent abilities, too, which have a little bit more. It's a really clever little dice system it's a cute, fast little game. I just love how sometimes it's so low stakes and it really matters. And sometimes it's, well, this town burned down and I had to go into the box and get new cards, and it's just this smoldering wreckage on the map now.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Advantage is the same thing, right? You sort of lift the cards slowly up, and it's like, oh no. All right, and that is Lands of Galzyr. I played a review copy that we got sent this week. It is called OffShoots. They sent me a message, Dan Linden, the designer, and he says, got this dexterity game. I said, yep, good enough. Send it along. And so if you can picture this, it is, you're building a tree, and you have all these flattened sporks. Spork is a fork spoon, And so these spork things that look like sporks have 4 bristles on one side and 2 on the other. And so you always have to use the 2 bristle to stick it into a 4 bristle. And you're building this massive tree as it slowly builds up. I've taken some pictures, so if you saw them this week, you'd see what it looks like. It's this artistic thing that sprawls in all sorts of different directions.
I just pulled up a picture of this thing. Like that's crazy pants.
It is crazy pants. And just my testing of it, it was fairly disastrous, but when I brought it to the game day, it was the complete opposite. Like at the very bottom of the rules, it says, if you happen to somehow put all 75 leaves on, then do this. And so we got to 75 and this thing reached out in every direction. It's fun because there's no sort of rules on, only use one hand. It says you get to use your hands however you want. You can turn it, you can spin it. The only rule is if once you commit to where the connection's going to be, that's the connection that must be done. And if then you let go. And if the tree falls after that, then it falls. The only problem I had was with how they do the winner. In this type of game, you really need to do whoever knocks over the tree is the loser and everyone else wins. Unfortunately, the way the rules read is after the tree gets knocked down, the person just before it got knocked down is the winner, the last successful placement. And I'm just like, how does that work? And it even says you can play up to 12 players. So me as player 9 successfully put every branch on, but 3 players down, someone knocks the tree over and I lose? I don't understand.
I feel like most dexterity games of this ilk should just be someone might lose, but we are just doing this thing and we're going to all feel real good when we've done this amazing thing.
Because it said after you put 75, then you have to start taking them off and moving them to the other side. It's like, if we get to 75 of these leaves on, then we all win. And that's what we did. We got it all up there and it's like, congratulations, we won.
Except for that one guy.
Except for you. And that is OffShoots, designed by Dan Linden, self-published. It was a review copy. Definitely check out the pictures. It was immediately not given away, but one of the players said they wanted to take it because they were off on a retreat and they thought it would be great for their family. I said, no problem. Just send me some pictures. So I'll be posting his pictures soon.
Speaking of OffShoots, Flamecraft Duels was my most recent play, and I know you guys talked about this recently. This is just a 2-player duel game in the Flamecraft universe, which if you don't know, is just cute dragons that want to get jobs, and they're the cutest damn thing you have ever seen in your life. But the lore of Flamecraft Duels is that's the game that the dragons play on their lunch break, which to me is also super cute. But so my wife loves Flamecraft Duels. And it's even better for her because I cannot beat her. Can't do it. I get close and she takes me down every single time. But so what you're doing is you're drawing out of a bag little dragon tokens, and each dragon has a different power, which might be move some tiles around on the board or draw another one and place it. And a la Harmonies, you're trying to get certain patterns that match the cards, the recipes that you have in your hand, and every one that you get is worth 2 or 3 points, and you're going to play until the bag's empty or the deck's empty. Usually it's the bag. And I have the deluxe version of this, which is this insane, it opens like a book, and it has like pages that are the board, and you pull them up, and it has all the bits underneath, and this soft velvet cloth bag, and this laser etched card holder, and plastic cards. Way overproduced, but it's beautiful, and it is a really fun, super light one-on-one game. And there's a solo mode I haven't tried yet, but really a delight, and also my wife will play it anytime I want, so that is a huge win, too.
Yeah, I was trying to look it up. There's like a seaside abstract game that's very much like this that just came out recently. Both times, like when I talked about it and now that you're talking about it, I meant to look it up and I just tried to find it now, but I cannot. It's the same sort of thing. You're placing these tokens on this sort of small map, sort of like Harmony style. You get to stack them and you're trying to get certain patterns, but they have all these special abilities that let you manipulate the board and trying to, suss that out and, make it work is a really intricate part of the game. And just like you said, the fact that it looks so nice. It's got that little golden clasp, that you hook down. Anyway, it's like bakelite tiles. They look great. It's a great little production.
And they did a really good job, I think, it's a very simple game, but you can have the fancy dragons that you put in that just changed 2 little rules. And sometimes it's a permanent change, sometimes you have to spend your coins for them. But it's just enough of a change to make it different than the last time you played. I think it's up there with of all these duo games that have been coming out the past few years. I mean, I think it's up there with all of the other ones. Just quick, simple, and I don't know. I can't get past how cute it is. Like it's real cute. Like if the world had more of that cute in it, we would be in a better place.
Yeah. The puns in Flamecraft are real. And that's Flamecraft Duel. You and I actually got to play a game this week. It is called Yokohama. It's an old classic, and I love it. It's one of my favorites. It just recently got a brand new edition, and we played it on Board Game Arena. And this is designed by Hisashi Hayashi and put out by Azuku Board Games. And it was one of the original sort of worker manipulation games. You place these workers, you could either put 2 into one area or spread 3 across the board. And then you had your main leader or your boss, and he moved to the actual action that you were going to take that turn. He has to follow a path of the workers that you recently played, not recently, or have placed out in past or this turn. And then the power of the action will be based 1 on him and then the number of workers you have. And on previous turns, you might have built buildings there and they get to add to the strength as well. And that's going to get you either more resources or a more powerful action. And you're building technologies, you're donating to the church, you're working on
maybe you were donating to the church. I ignored the church.
That was a last turn. I'm kind of upset with myself for that. It's like, oh, no one's put in the church and this is the last turn of the game. Well, there's free points, and I just limped down into the church and sort of threw a couple coffers.
Your deathbed repentance.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, I got some tea and a coin. Okay, points for the church. Good stuff. And so you're building this pyramid of actions every turn, and I just very much enjoy it. And like when you do that action, all your workers come back. So we've talked about a lot of games like the Druids of Eldoria, where you're trying to constantly keep up a supply of something that you have to have on your turn. And that is these cubes. In this particular game, I did not have an issue with that. There was I think there was 1 turn where I could only put 2 on a certain spot. But as you're populating all these action spots, you're going to run out of cubes. So you got to make sure, you keep your supply up and or take the actions to get the cubes back. And all of those places that we just talked about, like the church or the customs office, you mark points there. You're using those same cubes too. So that depletes your overall system as well. And the buildings I talked about that you put there, you have to go to a certain action space to make sure you have those as you're going around as well.
Yeah, this was one I hadn't played it in a bit, and it was probably halfway through our game. I was like, I'll figure it out, and I did. It's much simpler than it sounds, because as you described, there's all these different things going on, but it's actually a very simple game. Not for me to not get my score doubled, but it's really fun. And what I like about it is all of those elements you're talking about. You have to have this thing. So you're constantly managing, okay, I really want to do my contract, but if would be a lot easier for me to do my other contracts if I managed to get myself a few more cubes. Well, how am I going to get those cubes? Well, I got to get this other thing. If I get this technology, that's going to let me get this thing more often. And it really just kind of spirals, but it spirals in the best way. And it's very hard to take a turn where you feel like you've done nothing. I managed to do it once or twice at the beginning, but it almost always feels like you're doing something. You always feel like you're making progress. And the only bad feeling was when I had to keep paying you money because you kept going where I wanted to go. He's a monster, everybody.
It's not true. I'm very nice to play games with.
That is true. That is true. I assume that you were taunting me behind the screen.
There is, and it's one of those games where you don't really need to look in the rule book. It's very straightforward. The only thing you need to really look in the rule book is how the game ends, because it's one of these things where, there's 7, I think I remember counting. I didn't even look it up this time. It was like, it just came up on BGA. This is your last turn. I was like, okay, I guess we must have triggered something. I think there's 7 different things that can happen that will trigger the end of the game. So it's just one of those things that's the one thing you usually have to look at.
Yeah, it definitely came out as a surprise to me on this one. But a part of that is also BGI. We played it, I think, over the course of last night and this morning we played those. So there's always that kind of weird BGA of you really should stop and reevaluate the board state, which is not something that I tend to do because it'll be fine. It's not real. It's digital game.
That's right.
It'll be fine. But there is a lot of different boards to kind of keep track of, which when you play in meat space, you can kind of see everything, which, I mean, it's that's how you should play a game, see everything. But, as we played through Board Game Arena at one point, I was like, what does this button do? And I was like, oh, I can see the thing.
Yeah, it opens up all these other boards that we were talking about. Oh, I see. That's how that works. Yeah, so.
But I definitely recommend Yokohama. And the new version, I got to see it at Gen Con 2 years ago. They just were just putting it out. It's a really nice new version. Good production. And it's a very clever game.
That's Yokohama. And so a couple weeks ago, I talked about a game called Wroth and how our single playing of it wasn't so great at 3. And so at the same game day, we got it out at 4, and it improved by at least 50%. Like, as in from 50% to 100%. Awesome. Really love this game. It takes a troops on the map game and you play it in like 30 to 45 minutes. It is fantastic. You're rolling some dice, you draft those dice, you do those actions, you try to get troops in these scoring areas. You're trying to be the only person in these scoring areas because you get a benefit. You try to get your elite troops into these scoring areas because if you get to score them because you have the majority there, some of these elite troops get you bonus victory points. First to 30 gets the win. And every faction is completely different. They have all different elite troops. You have 3 special powers that you get to choose one at the beginning of every game. Lots of crazy asymmetric powers going on. Unfortunately, the forums on Board Game Geek are filled with what they call balance problems. I don't want to lean one way or the other. I have only played it twice. A lot of it sounds, and rulebook issues, right? A lot of it sounds, it is a little bit like Blood Rage, I feel, where all of the powers are crazy and the game is so short it doesn't matter. Maybe. I don't know.
So I remember we talked about this. You talked about this, I think last week, the week before. And when you were describing it, that's what it made me think of. And I played it once when a friend of mine was doing a preview for it back whenever the heck that was. So it was an early version. But I love a game where everyone has a power that is just ridiculously broken, but everyone has a power that's ridiculously broken, so it all kind of balances out. I love that in a game because it makes every time you play a different faction, it makes it different, and it gives me a direction to go. Okay, I don't know what to do. Well, these guys are really good at recruiting, so I guess I'm recruiting. And I love that about a game, and I was really curious when you talked about it before, if you liked it more at a higher player count, because these troops on a map games, the more the merrier, but often that makes them take so long. When you play like a game of Ankh at 5 players, like that is a long game, but you're not going to play a game of Wroth, I don't think, in maybe 90 minutes. It's got probably less. So
much less, I think. I didn't time the game we played, but you were only drafting 3 dice. So you do 3 actions, which just constitute moving some troops or deploying some troops. Everyone goes around the table, 3 actions, and then you're doing a scoring around again. And you are getting anywhere from 5 to 6 victory points a turn. And so you're going to get to 30 awful quickly. And the issues with the rule book, I also find there might be not some, there are not enough concrete examples and or corner cases covered, because the majority of the questions, the answer is just yes. It's like, well, if I use this ability that says it moves something, does this other unit's, move special thing trigger? It's like, yes, it's movement, but it's one of those things where board games, other rule books are so tight, it tells you, yes, if this happens, this happens, and if this triggers that, it tells you everything. This one doesn't say any of that. You just sort of have to imply, it says if I get moved, I get to do this thing, and this special ability says it specifically moves other people, then yes, it triggers. Answer is yes.
Which is actually that's always my go-to. I'm like, yeah, sure. Like that's what we'll do. But it's amazing the skill of writing a good rule book. Yep. And I was thinking of it recently because I know we've actually played Revive before, but their follow-up game Recall is just as complex, maybe a little more complex. It is a 16-page rule book. It is amazing. And then you play other games that are way simpler. Here's 52 pages of rules. It's an amazing skill set that I think too many board gamers don't realize. Like, if you have a good rulebook person, I don't know, you have maple syrup for days. I don't know what's great in Canada. I assume that's it.
Yes, just maple syrup. That's all we eat here. So yes, there are a few rulebook issues like that where I found things, and there'll be more on this later. I found things in the wrong sections. Like, well, something that happens in combat. It's like, well, that's obviously going to be in the combat section. No, it's over here in this section. There was 2 specific things in the wrong area of the rule book. But
well, it's like the Spanish Inquisition,
Yes. Wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, that's a joke for the oldies.
And that is Wroth, designed by Manny Trembley, put out by Chip Theory Games.
All right, so one more, and I usually I try not to talk about prototypes and stuff, but I think you're going to be interested in this one. This is another duo game, Core of Discovery Duo, which I know you were a fan of Core of Discovery, but I believe it was you said you had a hard time finding people who actually wanted to play it with you.
Yes. Actually, I just saw this bit of news today, too. I'm very interested in how they're going to get it to work.
Yeah. So I had the prototype for a while, actually. I sent it on to somebody else. So I played it a lot and have been playing it still more on Tabletop Simulator. It's there as well. And so this is 2-player only. It's no solo, like you have 2 players or play something else. And you are building the map. And so it's the same type of rules, kind of Sudoku, Minesweeper thing, where it's like, well, you can only, if you have a mushroom in this column, you must also have a mud in this column, or whatever it is. But each player has their own character with their own set of rules. So Clark's rules might be around this one, whatever it is, a rock. On each of the orthogonal sides must be something different. And then Lewis's are the same thing, except it's diagonal sides. And then you have York, and they all have various different things. But there's a set of rules for the game, and it's randomized what the symbols are, the mushroom, the mud, the water. And that you can talk about. You can see them, they're there. We know these are the rules. And as we expand the map, we get more clues of where the fort might be allowed to be, because you're trying to find the fort. And so once you get to a 3x3 grid, then you get a piece of information. And eventually you'll find out that the fort has to be adjacent to 2 things. But if all of my rules that I have randomized on my hidden player board and all of your rules that you have hidden are not true when we place that fort, we lose. And so we're playing the game and placing the tiles, trying to clue each other in as to what our rules are. And the way we can give specific clues are, we have 5 tiles that we put our little character token on. And so it's like, okay, I can place these tiles whenever I want, or I can place from my kind of river of tiles. There'll be 3 tiles, and you always have to place the furthest to the right. But I can take my one that has my symbol on it, and I can put it down, and I'm saying, Walker, pay attention to where I'm putting this tile. I am telling you a thing. And he's not going to listen, and then we're going to lose, but that's the way it goes. And it is awesome. And I sucked so much at regular Core of Discovery. Like, it's my favorite game that I'm terrible at. But
so the 2-player is cooperative?
Yeah.
So is it called dual or duo?
Duo.
It is duo. Okay.
Yeah, duo. It's plays in like 20 minutes, and it's fast, and then every time you finish one, you up the difficulty. So you draw a power that you now have, which is usually a one-time thing. Like, I can 1 time per game, I say, "Hey Walker, is this rule this that you have? Do I have that right?" And you say yes or no.
No, I say bingo.
No, yeah, bingo.
And yeah,
well,
and you
probably not, because I'm wrong.
B4, and then I'm playing a different game. Yeah, I'm
right, and then I sunk your battleship.
Exactly.
But depending on the powers that you pick, you get these hazards which make the game harder. It might be flip to the hard side of the main rule board, or you don't get the fort information until later in the game, or there's extra monsters that do bad stuff to you, or you have to play with your kind of river of tiles hidden. It's very clever. Like, it's very clever, very quick, and I'm super impressed by it.
Yeah, it's got to have something, right? Because that 2-player genre is very full. So if it doesn't grab that quick and good, then it's going to be.
And it comes at the core of the game, the core of Discovery, kind of that Sudoku, whatever, just from a different angle, where instead of trying to figure out what is hidden, it's trying to figure out where you're allowed to place things. So you're looking at a bunch of information and trying to deduce from that, rather than looking at a little bit of information and trying to guess what's hidden, if that makes sense in the old Core of Discovery. So I was very impressed.
Nice. So those are the games we played this week. Now, a quick break to pay some bills. And we're back with the news and why it doesn't matter. So I'm here with my guest, Hungry Gamer. Now, he does great crowdfunding videos that I'm sure everyone has seen as they scroll down the page, or probably have even watched on their favorite crowdfunding project. And he also has a great podcast that I've been on called Boards and Brews. And so, what do you say, Mr. Hungry Gamer?
I say nom nom. But well, first off, so your fans probably don't know this, but the day that I got Michael Walker to come on to Boards and Brews was a red letter day, because I'd been listening to his podcast forever. And when I emailed, he was like, oh, I'm happy to come on. He's like, Mark's not going to come on. He doesn't do that. But I'll come on. I was like, no, that's okay. And we were recording the very first time. And then it wasn't supposed to be that day, but the gardener showed up and we're weed whacking and sent a rock flying into my big window right next to me. And I could see it on the film. I jump. And then I'm like, I have to go see what just happened in my house. Because we just moved into this place and the whole wall of glass was just spiderwebbed all the way through. So that's always that
was a show of all sorts of fun stuff, because that was the first time that I had done something like that. And so I had to be on my main computer, not down here in the studio, just on the laptop. And so I had tried to convert my little computer room into a makeshift studio. So I had tacked all this soundproofing stuff on the wall, and slowly, like a timer throughout the show, these squares of soundproofing would randomly fall. It was quite the session.
And it was just beautifully, they'd start slow, just like you think. Just, he didn't let the glue cure or whatever, slowed. It was great. But so anyhow, yes, as he said, I do lots of crowdfunding videos, review videos. And as with our next bit of news we're going to be talking about, I feel like I have to say this. I take no money to do a preview or a review video. It's not a commercial, and no matter what it is, and sometimes publishers choose not to use my video because I always put quibbles. I call them quibbles in every video, things that maybe I don't like, maybe you won't like. But I also have to remember that the people behind these games have sometimes put 5, 10, 18 years into these games. So I try to phrase it kindly. I would get a lot more views if I just started setting stuff on fire. I mean, just a lot more. So I try to do it that way, but that's what I strive to do. Just clean, simple, and you've probably seen my thumbnails. It's me grabbing the box and eating it like a hamburger.
So getting on to the other bit of news that just came out today, we have Rodney. And he's been doing Watch It Played for a long time, and then he branched out a bit and brought in a bunch of people to do other kinds of videos. And then an offshoot of that, they even made their own little thing, and they started doing some other stuff on their own called Game Night Picks. And they I'm going to probably have you talk about it more, but they employed some things that Rodney did not agree with, and so he thought he'd have to make a video on it. And so he did today, and it's a very somber video about how he had to cut ties with certain individuals to make sure that, his brand, and he's decided to bring everything back to just being himself again and putting out how to play videos. And that's what Watch It Played will be going forward. And, I'm sure you might change his mind later, but, and this is almost, and he made a statement that was almost identical to what Mark and I have talked about before. I know we have guests on now, and Mark's had guests on before, but these were extremely, odd circumstances. And during normal shows, we don't do that for this exact reason, because we just don't know what's going to happen off camera in the future, right? And it's hard to know, people. We've done much stuff together, but, we don't know each other, but we get a gauge of our personalities, right? That we're both, very interesting and dashing people. But other than that, we're not sure.
Ruggedly handsome. I mean, you're burying the lead here.
So what do you think of this thing that's happened?
So first off, it just came out of nowhere. Just bizarre. I mean, if you look into it, it's been going on since December. So kind of the fast and dirty is the board game, the Game Night Picks, and to be clear, they have not put anything out yet saying any of their side of the story. So maybe this is different. But what came out was that their advertising model was, Michael Walker, publisher, you want me to put your ad in my video. Great. I'm going to bill you every month or every quarter, depending on how many views that video got. And you're going to pay me 2 cents per view or whatever it is. Well, what Rodney said he discovered by looking at the analytics in the YouTube analytics is that they had purchased a service from YouTube to push the videos in front of lots of people, which skyrocketed the subscriber count and the view count for these videos. So now Michael Walker Publisher, I'm like, look, I got 20,000 views on this video. You got to pay me for 20,000 views. But when you looked into the analytics, 95% of those 20,000 views were dropping after the first 15, 20 seconds or whatever. So we're actually never seeing the video, which is halfway through. And that's kind of the core of it. He has a long document where he gets into the nitty gritty, which first off, I didn't know anybody was doing advertising like that. I had no clue that was a thing that that anybody would pay for, that you'd be like, okay, however many videos. I'm like, my next thought is like, is this in perpetuity? Like, is this forever? Like, the questions I have are immense. But what was really interesting to me is, like, Rodney was talking about lawyers, like lawyers and having screenshots before he lost access, and it's intense sounding. And if everything that Rodney says is legitimate, this is the truth, it sounds super unethical to me. And also sounds like you can make a lot of money off of that.
Yeah. And it sounds like YouTube should figure out what they're doing as well, right? Allowing people to do that in the first place, knowing that, it's not as though it's just this one sort of branch that's doing this. I'm sure there are a lot of people that have an advertisement contract like that. And the fact that YouTube provides yet another service to push it in front of anyone and everyone is shady as well.
Yeah. And what's really interesting to me is the relative lack of people talking about it. I mean, it's being talked about, and we're talking about it right now. I would have thought this was going to be like an explosion of stuff. But as I've been talking to various people, we kind of came to the conclusion that we think this is kind of like inside baseball. Like, it's such a weird, it's about the views and how long is the view. And it starts getting to this weird nitty gritty that, do you even want to understand? I don't even know that I want to understand. And
the
so
video
I
is
wonder
also,
if that's...
Yeah, the video is also unlisted, right? It's not public, right? So you have to have the link in order to see the video. So I'm going to post it at the end of the podcast here if you want to take a look at it. Make sure, like he says in the video, to look at the document that he's posted with it. And it will explain exactly, like, what has happened with all the facts there. And then he goes on to talk about it, of course.
Yeah, as of this morning, last time I looked at it when I finished watching it, it was at like 10,000 views. I mean, it's so clearly people are interested, because Watch It Played has a very big audience. And for a channel that's, to my knowledge, I don't think Rodney's ever reviewed anything. He just does these how to play videos, which for my money are some of the best. I mean, that I've learned many a game watching his videos. You Canadians know how to explain a game.
Yeah, it's Watch It Played and Game in a Nutshell. They're pretty well the only two straight rules explanators that I watch.
But yeah, Nithrania, yes, his stuff's really good. Really good too.
Yeah.
Yep. So right before we started, Walker asked me if I had anything else for the news. And one thing popped into my head. And it popped into my head because I was talking about Conquest Princess earlier. And so the same publishing company, Fight in a Box, for Zine Quest, Z-I-N-E Quest, which I don't fully know what a zine is.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have a block on talking about anything like zines on this podcast. So I'm just going to hit the stop button. And so, yes, it is a zine.
So it's a little tiny, like I got one right here that, was sent to me, but it's called Barcane, arcane, but bark, because it is the RPG game that you play with your dog. And I don't know about you, but I've never heard of something like this. And so the idea is you go for walks with your dog. Good. And then based on what happens on the walk, you come back and you do a journal, and it's very entry level, or you draw pictures, and somehow the rules of the game are like what spells your dog is casting and what's happening. And it very specifically says you do your journaling while you cuddle up with your dog. And I don't know about you, but I can't find anything bad to say about it.
Nope. I'm dog lovers are going to love it. That sounds very interesting for sure.
Yep,
your dog is the star in your role-playing game.
And the only reason that you're invited is because you have thumbs and they don't, and they can't write. So, Barcane, and it's a pun. What else could you want? And I guess the full disclosure. And so the full disclosure I have to say is they reached out to me, and the reason I know about this, they reached out to me and asked me if I would do voiceover for their video, which I didn't get paid for. I'm like, it's a game about playing with your dog. Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would almost pay you to do this.
Nice.
Barcane.
Arcane. And that's the news and why it doesn't matter. Now on to our main review, which is Lunar Rush, designed by Skippy Brown and put out by Skipperino and put out by Dead Alive Games. And that is the only game to date that Mr. Skippy Brown has put out. So I've been told that someone has a unhelpful summary of Lunar Rush.
Well, I do. So now you might think, looking at this, that this is just cube pushing. Cube pushing in space, but just cube pushing. But really, this is an indictment of capitalism. Because what's happened here is we found on the moon 2 new elements. And so what are we going to do? We're going to rip the moon open. We're going to pull that stuff out. We're going to bring it down to Earth and sell it to rich people who don't need it. How are we going to do that, you ask? Well, we're going to go on Future Space Shark Tank and get Future Space Mark Cuban to give us seed money, our 25 space bucks that we start with, so we can spend those space bucks to go up to the moon and make our moon base to do this. Now, unfortunately, in future space-time, there's unions. And the unions say we have to feed our workers and give them a place to live. And if we don't, they die. And you know what happens then, Walker? Lawsuit.
Yeah.
Lawsuit. We have
people
to settle.
Are sad.
Yeah, we have to settle. Yeah, and then we lose more space bucks.
I was going to say that's loss of profits right there. Shareholders angry. Yeah,
exactly. This guy gets it, and so basically, what I'm saying is, it's the history of capitalism.
Yeah, don't record deaths, is what you're saying. Gotcha. Understood.
Yeah, no. It's okay to have a death. You just have to settle. You have to be able to settle with the families.
So, setup for standard Lunar Rush is very easy and quick, and it is my only negative part about Lunar Rush, because a lot of the times you're just throwing stuff in the lid. It's like, nope, we're not going to use that. We have AI supplements, we have faction cards, we have challenge cards, we have moon wonders, we have cooperative play stuff, and then we have different market boards that we have to choose from, and then the rest go in the box. There's quite a few modules, and I'm sure if you play Lunar Rush a ton, all of those will be great. But as it stands, if you just are playing your Lunar Rush game once a month or once every 4 months, like we do, sometimes it's a bit much to figure out what you're doing and getting it onto the table. But other than that, top notch, easy setup. You're putting out the board, taking your own stuff. You're getting out your ships. It has what I call the Pokemon factor, because you have your player board and it has all your worker placement spots on it, and you get to upgrade these worker placements. And that is such a key to worker placement games. And so you go from basic to intermediate, from intermediate to advanced, and the actions just get better and better. And that's what makes it key.
Yeah, the thing that always stuck out to me the most about it is most of it is simultaneous play. Now it's got its own issue with simultaneous play of, are people doing it right and whatever, but it's simultaneous play, but there's still some heads up interaction. So it's like 1/3 heads up interaction because we're bidding, and we're bidding our points, which is always, I love that. Like, it's a real decision. I'm going to spend my points. And as you get later in the game, it's a multiplier. So the last turn, it's you bid 5 points, you're actually going to lose 25 points for it. So that's a serious moment. And then it's that whole, I'm bidding because I know I need this specific route. But you, Walker, know that I need that route. But I know you know that I need that route. I know you know. And so that is my favorite kind of interaction. And so you're doing that, you're bidding, and you're picking these routes. And then the meat, the tableau part, it's all simultaneous. And it says on the box 75 minutes. And I have played a 5-player game on Tabletop Simulator in 75 minutes. The box didn't lie, and that deserves a trophy.
Yeah, I do want to focus on that bidding system, because you have a deck of 5 cards, 1 through 5, and you're using these cards to, like you say, bid on routes. And this is one of my favorite parts of the game, is that you're sending up supplies to the moon. Well, how much do the supplies cost, you ask? It's got to cost something, right? They're expensive supplies. Tons. No, it's free. Just throw it on your ships as much as you want. And, but it does matter, how big the ship is. You can't just tie stuff to the outside of the ship. It's got to fit in the ship. So the slow trundly ship, you get to put 9 things on. And then you have a medium ship, you get to put 5 things on. And then you have the quick ship that's going to make it there that turn. But unfortunately, only 2 things can go on that ship. And so it's got this great, it's not like an official 2-phase part of the game, but that is how it works. Early game, everyone's bidding super high for that slow ship because they want a ton of supplies up to the moon so they can upgrade their stuff and start, pushing their cubes, because you can make some of this stuff on the moon, but it takes so many workers and you want those workers for other things. So you want to ship up this stuff for free. And then mid-game, you get your engine going, right? And you're starting to make these high-value things, and now you want to start shipping them down. And so you want to get the slow ship down because you want to be able to put a bunch of stuff on these ships to get it down, to sell it, and start getting those points. And that's the interesting part of when you're bidding, because if you bid high, you get to choose first, but you don't always have to pick your up routes right away. It always does happen that way, but later on in the game, because it is possible that you might get 2 ships up. Someone might really need a certain down ship, so they pick that first, and now suddenly an up route opens itself up. That kind of stuff, very interesting. And then just very quickly, the card that you use to bid is sort of locked in for that turn, and then you only have 4 cards left, and then after you've bid for the next turn, you get that card back. So there's always 1 card out of the system, and so you have to, take into consideration what you want to do next turn and make sure you have the bid card that you want.
And one of the other kind of neat things in the bidding to me is you start paying attention to other players and what their engine is doing, and you're looking at the market. You can start using your bid to get ships to specifically damage what you can do. Because I can look, and if I see that you have a crystal engine and crystal's about to take a dip in the market, and I get to the down ships first, and I pick a fast ship down, I can tank the market, and I get points, and then you have this ship that's rolling in all slow with all these crystals, and suddenly you get bupkis for it. And it's a really delightful little part of the game for the person who's petty while they're losing the game, like me.
Just so. And like I said at the beginning, when you're setting up, you have several different market boards that you get to choose from. And not only does it sort of dictate how the market fluctuates, but it also dictates how quickly it recovers. And it also sort of sets the price on how much, the stuff that you left on the moon at the end of the game is worth. That also changes based on the market board you pick. And so, like we said, you have your Earth phase where you're loading up the ships and you're getting them up there. And then you have your moon phase, which you're placing your workers, you're cube pushing, sure, but it's interesting because you get to build these new refineries that get you the super minerals. At the very beginning of the moon phase, they have these gold modules that you get to buy. You are able to get 3 per game. You're not always going to get all 3 because they're very expensive because they do crazy things. A lot of them take multiple workers, but they give you a ton of stuff. And they push cubes, and then you have to feed all your people. Your basic habitat can house 5 people, like he said. And then if you want to bring up more people from Earth to start working, then you have to make sure you have room for them, or else guess what? Bad news. Lawsuits, and you have to be able to not only house them, but feed them. And that gives a neat, quirky little thing. It's like where, oh no, I don't have enough food. I guess on my down ship, I'm going to throw my crew member back on and send him back to Earth because I can't feed him.
We don't have to feed him while he's on the ship. I mean, he gets peanuts. It's fine.
I haven't seen that happen very often, but it's in the rules. I said earlier about having the wrong thing in the rule book, and that's one thing that we always found in this game. The eating part for there's a great quick ref, but it doesn't even talk about feeding your troops. And in the rule book, it's this odd paragraph that you can't find. So it's the same sort of thing where they just put it in an odd area. It's not even on the quick ref. It's got to fix that.
You know what? I didn't realize that. And they're going to listen to this, and I bet they're going to fix it.
They bet.
And so you're talking about how, you haven't seen, a lot of people have to throw workers on ships. I played in a demo of this for another podcast. I was talking about it. And one of the players, she was playing one of the factions, the new factions, the gamblers faction that we'll talk about in a second. And she gambled bad. And she had 3 people die on the last turn and threw 1 on a ship. And she finished with 36 points. Now, if you know the game, you know that you start with 25. She killed 4 people or 3 people on the last turn. And everyone was like, how did you do that? She's like, let's not talk about it.
Yeah, considering the game comes with 200-point chips, which are often used, score of 35 is painful.
Yeah, unofficially, it is the record for the lowest score the publisher's ever heard of. By a lot.
So like I said, because some of the ships take a while to get to the moon, those routes start to close down because in turns, the game only lasts 7 turns. So in turn 6, we're going to close that slow route down because if you put stuff on it, it's not going to have enough time to get to the moon. So it gets replaced with cards, and you can choose the card instead. It also has this interesting mechanism on the down ships that you can just send them back empty. This is another thing that is not in the market phase of the rule book, but in the moon phase of the rule book. So like when you're getting the points for it and you're trying to remember, it's like, oh, wait, don't we get points for an empty ship? Well, let me look in the market part of the rule book because I'm sure it's there. No, it's not. So yes, so say that your down ship holds 5 things and you just didn't want to ship them down. You just sent it empty. You'll get 5 points. Great.
Yeah, you're delivering Kickstarters. They finally arrived.
Exactly. And then after 7 turns, the game is over. And it's not one of these games that has a ton of endpoints. There are some modules that are sort of like create this crazy moon wonder. That is a lot of big points at the end. But this base game, not much. You have a sort of a degraded value for all the stuff that you have left on the moon, and then whoever has the most points wins.
And the worker placement spaces that you upgrade will be worth points also.
Just so. And when you listen to this, it will be the 10th of February, and there will be a Kickstarter. It will be for the new expansion called Lunar Rush Innovations. This expansion has all sorts of great things, like 5 completely different factions. There was sort of like faction cards in the base game that gave you like things, but this is totally changes how you play. Like instead of workers, you have robots or cyborgs or your gamblers or all sorts of different things. Also has events and awards and milestones. So even though I said, sometimes too many modules, more modules, but the factions itself. So they also have different complete player boards that are different because all the actions are now different. Anyway, new meeples, new stuff. Can't wait. I've played it twice already. Going to play it again on the 14th. So this Saturday, if you're watching, check out our live stream and we'll be playing Lunar Rush with the new expansion and you'll be able to see yourself.
And so the new expansion has got 5, it also plays up to 5 players now. It has 5 factions. And so we have the gamblers that we've been talking about. And that the designer put into the game for the people that were like, this game's too Euro. There's no randomness in this game. Well, good luck. Now there's randomness. Now every time you place your worker, you roll 2 dice, and depending on how well you roll, that's what you get. And there's some mitigation and whatever.
I played that faction just this week so I could talk about it. And they were very interesting. It's neat because on their buildings, they have 3 different spots. Like if you upgrade them enough, they'll have 3 different spots where you can put workers. And the odds of what you get change on these 3 different spots. So you can sort of gauge, do I want to totally risk it? Or am I just going to throw 3 workers on all spaces and just roll and see what I get? All sorts of interesting stuff there. Those guys are called the Cullen Ventures. Then we also have the Cass Corps. Those are the cyborgs that use the gold modules. So we've talked about the gold modules. At the beginning of the game, the cyborgs draw 3 gold modules for just themselves. And when they play a gold module, they sort of tack on these extra cards that they've got. So they get like super gold modules. So when they place a worker on them, they get the benefit of both cards, which sounds crazy.
And I mean, it's super overpowered. But at the same time, I think it's only 6 workers you can get when you're the cyborgs. Maybe it's 5. And they also have to be fed food and power. But they're also, all their action spaces are really, really good. So they're very juicy, very strong, but very expensive to kind of do anything with.
Anera, they're like a corporation that employs specialists. So all of their workers are like lettered, like A, B, C, and D. And they have specific worker spots that they have to go. They sound kind of neat.
Yeah, there are the kind of consultants. And if you get your consultant for the right, say for food, and you play that agricultural consultant on the food space, crazy good. But because they're consultants, they get paid. So you actually are paying your points to them every turn they're off Earth, even when they're traveling. So you So for them, they're kind of prioritizing the fast ships because you got to get them up and then get them back down. For my money, I find that to be the most challenging faction. But when it locks in, their points are crazy good. So as you can tell, I've played all these factions multiple times. So I'm going to drop the inside knowledge.
No problem. We have the Nero next. They're the robots. And so you don't need to feed them. They just need to be powered every turn. So you have this vast fleet. You have way more meeples than all of the other factions. So and they take up less room in the ship to send them up. So you can get them up there pretty quickly. And if you don't power them, you don't lose any points. It's just like you're only going to get to use the ones you power, though. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, there's 20 of them. And the opposite of the cyborgs, each of their actions on their own, they're not particularly good because, it's like a little like robot arm, I guess, is doing one thing. But when you get 20 of them going, they do a ton.
And then we have the Shuzhou. And they have cutting edge technology, it says. And then they have this whole card system where they have these technologies that they're slowly researching and using and manipulating beakers and stuff. They seemed interesting as well.
Yeah, they're probably my favorite because what they do is, I think we talked about earlier in the episode, of they get game-breaking powers. Like, they're a bunch of scientists that aren't really good at anything except for research. And so when they get enough research, you get some kind of game-breaking power, like a shrink ray, or you can activate a gold module without putting a worker on it. And so they're very ineffective, and then suddenly they're doing something. It's like, whoa, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing? It's like, I have discoveries. I have a wormhole now, don't you? That kind of nonsense, which is very, very satisfying as they start to suddenly really power up.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how this plays with 5 players. Because like you said, when you do the worker action stuff, it's all simultaneous. And if you don't like that kind of thing, like if you don't like knowing exactly what everyone's doing, this is going to double down on that, because before everyone was doing it at the same time, but everyone had the same building, so you sort of had an idea of what they were doing. Now their whole system is different than yours, and it's heads down. So if that's not your thing, then maybe, definitely look into it. But I loved it. I really enjoy playing. Lunar Rush is definitely one of my favorite games, and this expansion just makes it that much better.
The other mini part that I particularly enjoy is the events. And Lunar Rush is famously, how many people know, but is famously a game that has zero chance in it. With the exception of the very first bid, there can be randomness if you tie. After that, there's no randomness. Now there's the gamblers, but aside from them, there is events that are to come out, and they could be good, they could be bad, they could be neutral, and you can kind of mix and match your deck how you want at the beginning. But I think it starts on turn 2 or turn 3. A card flips out, and next round, this thing's going to happen, which is going to change up.
You get to see them right at the beginning of the game. You get to see the first one, and then it happens in turn 3. So it's like Orleans, where in Orleans, you get to see the event at the very beginning of the turn, and so you have the whole turn to sort of plan for it. In Lunar Rush, you get to see it 2 turns ahead of time. So beginning of the game, you see turn 3, and then turn 2, turn 4 flips up, and then so you're always seeing multiple turns ahead, and you're planning for these things like the market busting out. And so and we totally planned for these events. We played with it in this last game that we played. It's like, ore is going to be worth nothing in turn 5, and so everyone was holding their ore back, sending all sorts of different things. I thought they were great.
Yeah, it's one of the things that always, in the very early iterations of the game, before even the Moon Wonders existed, was you could kind of fall into a rhythm, like, this is what I do, rinse and repeat. But now you get these events in there, and it sounds like, wait, I can't rinse and repeat because that's going to be a disaster. Or look at this opportunity if I pivot a little bit, which I just find very, very clever. I really, really think it is hitting a lot of things for what on the surface is a cube pusher, but it's really doing a lot of cool stuff. And again, we're talking, once you know the game, I mean, an hour, 75 minutes, which is, I don't know, for me, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think they got the time down just right? Because a lot of games, you get your engine going, and then all you do is spend turns running this engine. This works out to be like right around turn 6 or 7, you've got your full engine with enough life support to support all your astronauts that you want. You've managed to get all your astronauts up to the moon and all the resources you need. You've upgraded everything how you want it to be done, and then the game's over and it's time to go home.
Yeah, I think I've always enjoyed it, and I think it has a pretty darn good solo mode if you're into that sort of thing. Very fast, easy to operate, lets you run your engine, easy to play against. Yeah, I really have said, and it's not because the designer is my brother, which seems like I should be more negative because he's my brother, right? I should be coming at him hard. But I really do think this is a game that was really, I think, underappreciated. Just I don't think enough people got a chance to see it.
I can only agree. I try to push as much as I want. I want to make people know that the copy that I've been playing is definitely a review copy. Check it out on Kickstarter right now. I'm sure that he has a pledge where you can pick up the base game as well. That is Lunar Rush by Skippy Brown. And once again, I would very much like to thank the Hungry Gamer for coming on in this time of need and tagging in for Mark. And I hope you had a good time.
You know, I had a blast, but as one of my favorite podcasts I listen to literally every week, this has just been a total joy. So thank you so much for having me.
And that'll do it for this week. Peace!